Welcome back to another episode of the Elevated Chat Room. Elevate your mind, elevate your life. It's your host, Lonzo Jones. I'm back. We took a quick little break for spring break, so, we kind of, skipped a week, but we back, we ready. And we got a special guest with us tonight, Mr. Logan. He's a local CDL driver, and he's from the shows. But before I let him introduce himself, I'm going to introduce the topic. Topic for tonight is love, peace, and autism. All right, Mr. Lucas, let them know who you are and why we chose this particular topic for tonight.
Well, this month is Autism Awareness Month. Light it up blue.
Light it up.
Put the blue on. And Dwayne reached out to me. He knew I had a son that was autistic, and he wanted me to come over and speak a little bit, talk a little bit about some things, and maybe open some doors, maybe let some people realize what's going on with autism and figuring it out, because it's a tough road, and there's not a lot of information out there about autism. So you have to kind of dig sometimes to be able to, to find the resources and the different places that can help you through the journey.
Yeah. So has it been a tough journey throughout the whole time, or was it just more so an issue at first and then you guys kind of adjusted? How was that?
Well, it was tough at first. And then sometimes, like, it's kind of weird. It'll go good for a while, and then sometimes you maybe have some setbacks, There's some different things that, because he doesn't adjust to change very well.
Okay.
So that can bring some obstacles and some issues sometimes when, like when he's changing schools, changing teachers, so sometimes that, so that can make it very tough.
Yeah.
A lot of times. So, but then once you get him settled in, then it may go good for a while.
So he's good with routine. He's good with structure. He's
very
good. Okay.
Very good. You get him on a routine, he's good to go.
Okay.
But if you get off that routine, then it's tough. Just like we just come off spring break.
Yeah.
And y'all took a break. Well, when he's out of school, it takes him a little while when he goes back to get back on the schedule and routine. Something else that's very, very unique about autistic children, especially Kelton, is, and you don't think about it, is the time change and weather change affects them. So like his mind is triggered off of time. He's very good with dates. He can tell you holidays, like he can remember stuff that, like when we went on trips, he'll say, "Oh, we went to Disney in June 2020."
Yeah.
Like he can remember the dates very, like it's actually kind of crazy how he can remember this stuff. But yeah, they're very, very detail oriented and schedule oriented.
Okay. I've noticed from being around kids that have this particular that's autistic, that they are like super gifted in some area. Like I've never been around one where for the most part they don't have like some super gift. Like, have you noticed that with
yes. Okay. So most of the time, from what we've figured out, and every child is different, but yeah, they have a certain area that they excel in.
Yes.
Now they may struggle in other areas,
right.
But they have the one area that they're just super. Like Kelton is really good at math.
Okay.
Like he's really good. Like like even the teacher's like, "Oh, Kelton, he don't have no problem with math." But now if he's not interested in it, he ain't gonna do it.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? So if you can get them to figure out what they're interested in, then you can kind of start making, you can kind of start getting them to do what you want them to do and that kind of thing, and he can excel if he's really zoned in on it. But if he's not, he's probably not gonna pay too much attention to it.
That makes sense. I mean, I got kids like that don't have autism. It's like them. If they're not interested in, they're not gonna pay attention.
No,
and they're definitely not gonna read a book that they're not interested in.
No.
So I get that. Let me ask you this.
Okay.
How has Kelton made you not a better father, but a better person?
That one hurt. Because I'm very worried about what people think about me.
Mm-hmm.
I try to be, very neat with my clothes, clean with my clothes, match my clothes, all that kind of thing. Kelton does not care. He don't care. People, that's what we talk, we obviously talk about it because we worry about it. Do kids make fun of him at school?
Yeah.
Do other people, kids say things about him? And me and my wife had this conversation many times. Kelton don't care. They could be talking ugly about him, and he's not paying them any mind whatsoever. It does not bother him. So, as far as to answer your question, he's just very, he's very brave, and we tell him that all the time because Dayton, his brother, transferred schools, so they now go to 2 different schools, and Kelton still goes to Mush Shoals by himself, and he just goes in there every day. He don't care. He just rolls in there. And he never has come back, and like we never had issue with him crying at school or not wanting to go to school. As far as he may not want to go to school because he wants to play his iPad.
Yeah.
But as far as like, oh, I'm scared to go to school. No. He's very brave, and when we take him to Disney, he loves to ride rides. He's brave. I'm kind of scared of riding roller coasters. He's not. he don't bother him, man. So, like I said, to answer your question, the thing that's probably made me a better person, better father, is to learn not to worry about what the world thinks or what other people think. Just be yourself.
That's good.
Because that's what Kelton does.
That's good.
Yep.
That's good. And I know that's hard sometimes, just so conscious about what people think about you and how they perceive you.
Right.
And I had to learn to stay out of other people's mind.
Yeah.
Like you sitting there worrying about what this person thinks about you, so you're trying to live in their mental space, and that's not healthy.
Nope.
And like you said, though, by learning something from your child, it's like, you know what, I can be a better person if I can just take up what he does, what he embodies.
Yep.
Now that don't mean I don't still dress nice.
Right.
That don't mean I don't still take care of myself, but it's like, I don't care if you like my outfit or not.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm dressing for myself. You know what I'm saying?
For myself, being comfortable, whatever you decide that day. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
So that's what Kelton is, man. He's just laid back, cool.
That's what's up, man. So what signs or behaviors first made you consider an autism evaluation for him?
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, he has an older brother, and they're a year apart, roughly. And so Dayton was very advanced in doing, walking, talking, all the things that little, kids do.
Yeah.
Kelton comes along, they're in the room, and Dayton's playing with toys. Kelton just sits there. Mm-hmm. He don't interact. He don't, do anything. You take him to, like I said, we take them both to my cousin's house, go in the playroom, put them both in there. Dayton takes off. Kelton just sits there. And he started doing this thing where he would rub his face like this with his hand, and he would just kind of zone out.
Yeah.
So when he was younger, we knew something was going on. And here's the tricky part, and one of the questions, a challenge. So we kept telling the doctors, hey, something's going on. Well, let's just give it time because they don't want to label your child as autistic or anything. We don't want to label them. We don't want to give them that label if that's not it. Wait and let's see if he grows out of it. We knew something was up. So my wife, she's very on top of everything. So there was a clinic. She did a research. There's a clinic called Sparks Clinic in Birmingham. Okay. That's the clinic back then where you took your child to get the diagnosis. So she had already called and had him an appointment scheduled. When we went in for his checkup, 3-year-old, 2-year-old checkup, 3-year-old checkup, whatever it is, then you have the little sheet where you check the boxes off, and after you get so many negatives, no answers, you turn it in. We didn't make it 5 questions down. He's done. So when we turn it in, the doctor comes in. He's like, "Oh, I think there's something going on with your son." No, duh. We've been telling you this,
right?
And here's the tricky part. They tell you not to jump too fast and to have to label a child, but if you don't get them help fast enough, because your brain matures and grows really, at a young age really fast, and if you don't catch it fast enough to get them in the right therapies, then it delays them even more. So you've got this tricky part of, you're fighting against the doctors, and you're using your parent gut, and so like I said, she went ahead and scheduled the appointment. So when he says, "Oh, we think something's going on with your child," she's like, "Don't worry, I'm already got him an appointment to go to Sports Clinic next week." And he was like, "Oh, really?" And she, yeah. So that, to me, when you ask about the challenges, which is the next question, sorry, I kind of jumped ahead of that. To me, that's the biggest challenge is, because you don't want to be rude to the doctor because they're obviously more educated than we are. They went to school for this, and they're trained to do certain things. I get it. But when a parent, you tell them that, hey, something's
Right. You know your kids.
yeah, you kid, something's not right, and they kind of brush you off. It's a little frustrating,
Right.
So that's, that kind of goes with that. It was tough.
My thing is this. They always talk about preventative, catching
Right.
things early when it comes to
Right.
like diabetes, high blood pressure. Like you see the symptoms come and the warning signs. So why isn't that the same when it comes to autism? Like we see that this kid has certain things that's going on with him that's going to lead to autism, or he may be already autistic. We need to go ahead and jump on this now,
Right.
so we can make sure he develops at the rate that he needs to. But you don't want to do that because you don't want to label him. Like it's got to be something else behind the scenes why they don't want kids.
I think one of the things that's probably was partly because there wasn't a lot known, especially when Kelton, because he's 13 now, be 14 in July. Even then, there wasn't a whole lot known about it. Over the past couple of years, it's probably developed a little bit better. Hopefully they have a little bit better systems about it because it's a lot more increased in today's society. So hopefully there's a little bit more there. But at the time when he was there, it wasn't, and it was a little tougher. Trying to work through that, navigate through that. That was tough.
Yeah.
But luckily, and thank the Lord that we were able to get him in and get him in some therapies earlier to start helping him with that.
So going through the process of diagnosis and everything
Right.
like that, can they ever tell you, or did they ever tell you, or do they even know what the cause of autism?
There again, there's a lot of like theories.
Yeah.
Conspiracy theories. There's a lot of theories that go into it. Like there's some of them that say that when they get their shots, because of the different metals and stuff that are in some of the shot, mercuries and different things that are in the shots, that it could cause it. They say sometimes some of the food that some of the stuff they put in the food can cause it. There's a lot of different things that they say. I don't really know. I do know that Kelton was doing pretty good, and then all of a sudden, by the time he got his shots, he did kind of change.
Okay.
And he did have some massive reflux problems as a baby, and they gave him some reflux medicine, and he acted weird after that. And we noticed it, and we quit giving it to him.
Mm.
So, sometimes maybe some of the medicines when a child is younger, it can trigger it, The biggest thing I think about that as far as being a parent with a child with autism is that, you think about those things, but it doesn't really change anything.
Right. Right.
So I think the biggest thing is that once you get a grasp of it, that that this is going on and my child is autistic, I think the biggest thing is embracing it and not really looking at that. And just looking, what can you do from now on? What can we do to help him?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
because like you said, once it happens, it's like, hey, this is it's here now. This is what we're dealing with. Like my son, my youngest boy, he had bad allergies, like food allergies, like nuts, dairy, eggs, shellfish, wheat, soy. Like for like maybe almost a year, he survived off bananas and rice. Like and juice, like he couldn't have nothing else other than fruit, rice, and juice and water because he was allergic to milk. You couldn't, man. So it's not as drastic as yours because he continues to grow out of the things, but the challenge that comes with that, the adjustments you have to make to make it a new normal.
Yeah,
So and that's
and we went through that too with food.
Oh,
so Kelton he had a texture issue.
Okay.
So when you put the food to his mouth, he would gag. As soon as you touch it to his lip, he's gagging.
Wow.
And he's little, so it's not like he's doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
He's a baby. So, but what my wife and I, we talked about it. And so what we would do is we got him insurers, and he's pretty much survived off insurers for a year or so. But what we would do is we would take the baby food and just touch it to his mouth like once a day. Just touch it. Even if we threw the whole jar of food away, just touch it. Just kind of slowly, kept working with him on it.
Yeah.
And eventually we got to where he would start eating.
Wow.
And now we've worked with him, and we've got, now, like, he eats cheeseburgers, he'll eat chicken nuggets, he'll eat quesadillas, he'll eat pizza, hot dogs. I mean, he eats, to be an autistic child, he eats a lot of different stuff.
That's good.
And we're still working on vegetables and stuff like that, but not a lot of kids, like
right.
it.
Kids is not autistic. They don't eat vegetables.
Right, exactly.
And it's funny because my son used to eat, I used to make this taco soup.
Yeah.
And he would eat it when he was younger. 3, 4 years old, he would tear it up. Got 5 or 6 years old, got to school, and some kids like, yeah, we don't like beans. And then I made taco soup one time. He was like, Dad, what's in this? And I told him, he was like, beans. He's like, I don't eat beans. I don't like beans. And he was like, this is nasty. This is disgusting. I'm like, you've eaten this for the past 3 years. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I know. I know what you be dealing with though on a smaller scale, obviously. So what do you wish more people understood about recognizing autism early? So
I was a pretty good ball player growing up. My wife was a good athlete. We both were good athletes. I think that sometimes us as parents, we want to be selfish. We don't want our kids, we don't want our kids to be that way, or we don't want to have to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times, because I've coached other kids, and I feel like they might be a little ASD.
Mm-hmm.
But the parents didn't seem like that they were open to it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I get it. Trust me, I get it. Because like I said, I was a pretty good ball player, played college baseball. I mean, and so for me to have a child that's autistic, it's like, oh man, because you dream of your kid to be, especially when you're a ball player, you want to be a ball player.
Trust me, I know.
And so that kind of thing, you go through. But I think it's real important to, don't fool yourself. Don't run from it.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to, like I said earlier, you got to kind of embrace it, because the quicker you get them help, the easier it gets.
Yeah.
Sooner, I know of some stories of some other parents that their kids wasn't diagnosed till later on.
Yeah.
And they struggled a little bit more. And the parents said, man, I wish we would have gotten, this earlier.
Yeah.
So, but again, I mean, everybody handles things differently, and so not everybody's always going to be the same. But I do feel like that it's better to get it in earlier, and to come to grips with it. That hey, okay, my child is autistic.
Yeah. Can't be in denial about it.
Exactly.
As long as you're in denial, there's no help. No help comes when you're in denial.
Yeah, and you're hindering your child, and and you're actually hurting yourself worse, because you're going to have to deal with those things longer.
Yeah.
So
how is he socially?
So, if, like we talked about earlier, if you want to talk about something that he wants to talk about, he'll talk your head off.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you kind of may have to trigger him to get him to do it. He's not just going to roll up in here like we are and sit here and have a conversation. He's not going to do that. He'll walk in, sit down, and if usually he has a phone or iPad or something, and he's going to put his nose into that. So, but there's times where we take it away from him, and we make him talk to us.
Yeah.
Like one of the big things I make him do is, and I asked him today, Kelton, what do you eat for lunch? And he said, I had a crispito for lunch, So, I make him talk to me and tell me. And here's another thing about children on the that are ASD. And when I say ASD, I mean autism spectrum disorder.
Okay.
So that's what it's kind of called. It's kind of in a group, you're on the spectrum is what they say. So, I think that sometimes you have to kind of figure out what triggers your child to be able to communicate with them. So like Kelton, I could tickle him, mess with him, and like pick at him and stuff. And Dayton, his brother, he'll pick at him and stuff, and we'll joke, or, pick at, and then that gets him kind of laughing and giggling. And when you get him, once you kind of laughing and giggling, he'll kind of loosen up and start talking to you. But he's very serious, like everything he says is very, very serious usually, unless you get him laughing.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I think there's like every kid's kind of different. You figure out what they like, what they're interested in, and you get them talking, you start talking to them about that, and then they'll start talking to you, they start talking to you. So he can talk and say whatever, but he's not going to just a normal conversation. Like I said, he's got to be interested.
Yeah. So does he have friends his own age?
A couple.
Okay.
Yeah, there's one little girl, her name is Rosalind, and she transferred in. Her dad works at Toyota, at the North American Lighting, and they come in from Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And I think she kind of struggled a little bit first coming to school, new kid, and so her and Kelton kind of took up and have been friends, and they've been friends for a while, and so him and her, they're friends, and I think for the most part, like we'll ask other kids that we know, how's Kelton, and I hear some of the other kids, hey Kelton, like I said, he don't really pay him no mind.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
But Rosalind, now that's his friend. He talks about Rosalind, and he's friends with Rosalind, and when they're out of school, and sometimes they'll call and FaceTime each other and talk and stuff a little bit. But he'll talk, even though she's his friend, he'll talk to her for 4 or 5 minutes, and then okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back and play my iPad.
Okay. Well, that's cool that he has friends and that he can make new friends, because I was just wondering, because I know all people or kids on the spectrum are different,
right?
Different triggers, different things. Like you got high function, you got
very high function.
You got verb. So so that's pretty cool, man.
But I think that partly because he's high functioning is because we did recognize it earlier and get him help early. I think if we just shoved him in the corner and left him alone, he would not have developed the way that he has.
Yeah, that makes sense though.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it's been tough, and you have to kind of it was like we were at Lowe's looking at shrubs and working on the flower beds and all that at our house, and we were leaving, and when he goes to the dentist, he don't like them touching his mouth, so he went to the dentist, and so they have to put the gas on him. To calm down, so that they can do, clean his teeth. And because used to just to get him to brush his teeth was a struggle because he would gag. But we got it now where he'll brush his teeth. Yeah. And so we were at Lowe's, and he had that gas, so it makes him a little loopy, And he just all of a sudden, we were leaving Lowe's, and he's all of a sudden just takes out running through the parking lot because he don't really understand danger.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So he just takes off running, and I had to run and grab him real fast before he there was a truck coming before he, luckily the truck stopped, but he doesn't, that's one thing that he don't understand is danger. Okay. Like he don't understand that, like, oh, I can't walk out in this parking lot and just walk wherever because somebody run over me. Like he don't really, that don't really register.
You don't grasp that.
Danger don't really register with him. So we have to be very careful, very mindful of, like, when we get out of the car, Kelton, stand by the car. Yeah. Because he'll just walk off. So that's challenging. Like when he goes to field trips, we have to make sure the teachers, hey, make sure you stay with Kelton. It's kind of nerve wracking for us because he might just wander off. Been at baseball games, and where you get involved in the game, and next thing you know, where's Kelton? And you look up, and he's way over there on the swings over there. Like he didn't tell you he's going to the swings. He just took off.
He's free, man. He's living free. But that's what's up, though, man. I can only imagine, though, like the panic that comes and the anxiety that comes when he's out of your presence and he's going somewhere where something could possibly happen. So I guess you have to really trust the people he's with.
Yes, we have talked to them a lot, and I know maybe sometimes they may feel like that we bug them or whatever, but that's what we feel like we have to do to stay on top of things, to make sure that he's taken care of and whatnot. So that's a challenge sometimes there. Gotcha.
So how has increased autism awareness impacted your family's journey?
So, like I said, when we started off, it was tough, like it wasn't a lot talked about or whatever. But as we went on, we've encountered different people like Dustin Phillips, who advocates for children with disabilities. The teachers we've had to kind of work with them and talk with them about his disabilities because sometimes they don't understand it, and so like we have to explain to them, okay, like weather change, time change, like Kelton's going to be off, you know what I'm saying? Like, so, different things like that. We have to work with them and talk to them and make sure that we stay on top of those things. So that's made it a little tough. But seems like that people are, like we talked about earlier, are a little bit more open to it.
Yeah.
Because there's more and more increased number of kids, developing it. And so some of the teachers are going to trainings and stuff to learn how to deal with it. So I think that's probably helping. And, that's, awareness is coming along.
So it's like, it seems like now that you guys are aware and have learned and have studied and researched and have the knowledge, it's like you guys need to share it. It's like, because if I don't tell you and something happens, it's not really on you. Right. It's more so on us, because we're the ones that know exactly what to do, how to do it, his triggers and everything. So we need to make you aware. So your awareness is making other people aware.
Right. And like I said, when you see, if you're out and about and you see a child that's autistic and you see them walking through the parking lot, if you know, hey, Lucas's son, I heard it or seen whatever, he takes off, he don't really, then okay, maybe I need to slow down.
Yeah.
Or if you live in a neighborhood and you see an autistic child outside, when you go by the house, maybe I need to slow, maybe I don't need to drive quite so fast. You know what I'm saying? Like, so yeah, like knowing the way that different kids are, and like I said earlier, instead of, I feel like when I was young, sometimes kids with disabilities kind of got just kind of, they just kind of got pushed. And nowadays, it's like they have Special Olympics and they have different things. And Courtney and Matt Akins have the Show Stars where they do basketball and they do baseball and they do, kickball and stuff, different things, flag football, stuff like that. So it's increasingly becoming known, and people are starting to kind of figure out, what's up.
You try to make their lives as normal as possible.
Correct.
Yes, and not make it a handicap.
Right.
Because you're not handicapped. You just got to go about living life different than how I would live it.
Right.
So having the tools, the knowledge, the awareness, and I know it eases pressure off you guys. The more research you do, the more things you find out. It's like, so next time this happened, I can try this.
Right.
And then you figure out, okay, well, this didn't work. Let me try this different method next time. Right. It's like, okay, boom, this is what works for my son.
Yes, it's trial and error. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, when they're younger, some of the things that worked when he was younger, as he got older, didn't work anymore.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? So like, and each child has their own battles. Like Kelton, he didn't like to wear socks when he was younger. He didn't like the texture of socks. Even still today, like if he puts on long sleeve shirts, he'll say, "Oh, it's cold." He'll like, he don't really want to wear long sleeves. Now hoodies, he's cool with, but like a long sleeve, like t-shirt or something, he has trouble with it.
Yeah.
But like knowing that, like I said, if my kid could, I was embarrassed, like we talked about earlier, about worrying about what people thought about you, thought about me. So I was worried about, if I send him to school in the wintertime and he don't have no socks on and teacher sees it, are they thinking that I'm a bad parent?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because he ain't got no socks on? No, it's because we literally would have to fight with him.
Yeah.
And finally it was just like, you pick your battles, you know what I'm saying? Okay, this ain't. So we even found other ways to get around it. Like we would get him some boots that had some thicker, insulation in them or whatever to wear. So, because we were worried about his feet being cold, because he wouldn't wear no socks. So, like I said, different things like that. If you know that a child is different in that aspect, you can kind of, okay, I understand now why he's doing, some of those things, because Kelton has some issues with, like, children that are on the spectrum. Sometimes they might touch themselves or do something that you would think is rude or odd or weird. Like Kelton bites his hands, and I'll even ask him, I'm like, bro, why you bite your hands? Like, I don't bite my hands, and your mama don't, your brother don't. Why do you bite? It's just something that he does. Yeah. And like, so his hands are all chewed up, and he and like there's times where in the past we've been trying to discipline him a little bit or whatever, and because he may be watching a bad video on his iPad or whatever, and take his iPad and he'll just bite down on his hand, like completely just chomp down, and I'm like, we've got, like you gotta, so I'll like tickle him or something to get him to let go, because once he's locked down, he's locked down. So you got to do, so like I said, if you, like knowing that the kids are doing those things, it's not that they're being ugly or they're acting out to be ugly. It's just that they don't really know how to control some of their emotions. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that makes tough, and it's been embarrassing sometimes in public before, because he's done some things and it's like, but at the same time you just gotta go on with it and try to get by with it, and
Yeah.
hopefully it don't happen again.
And see, that goes back too to worrying about what people think about you. Like even with him being with you and him just being himself.
Yep.
And then doing something that's like, dude, like you can't be doing it. Like, well, I'm sorry, Dad. This is the way it happened.
Well, he don't even say that. Like
I'm just saying, like, I'm like, I'm sorry, Dad.
He don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like he's
him.
He's him,
and so
you're not gonna get any lie. You're not gonna get it. Like if you was to say, Kelton, do you like my shirt? If he don't like your shirt, he's gonna say no. and, like whether it hurts your feelings or not, he don't care.
So he's
honest. He's true.
Man, I can just only imagine like being in the day in a life, like just being around y'all out in public, just
he's funny.
Yeah,
he's funny. And he's done. Yeah, like there's one time we were at the ball field. I was watching my nephew play, and he just decides he needs to go to the bathroom right here.
Oh, wow.
And don't tell nobody. And I'm like, oh, whoa. Sorry. I'm like, I'm sorry, folks. Sorry. Like, sorry. I'm like, Kelton, man, you can't do that, man. Come on, man. Come on. So, like there's
he's
been times,
free, man. That's the thing.
Like he don't care.
Play by his own rules.
But there was one time he was throwing food in the cafeteria because he saw it on his YouTube on a video. So he's throwing food in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
It's principal calls me. Kelton's throwing food in the cafeteria. Oh, I'm sorry. but at the same time, I was glad he was doing something like, he was interacting with the other kids to some degree,
That's pretty interesting, man. Like I said, I know it's when it first happened, I could see it as been a setback. But then after you guys kind of make the adjustments,
right?
It becomes, in some ways a blessing because it's going to teach you so many things about yourself. It's going to expose you to things that you need to correct, as a parent. And I know it has taught you guys a lot of patience.
And I needed that because I didn't have a lot of patience.
Yeah.
Still don't sometimes.
Yeah.
Don't have enough. But
and just all the other things that come with it. So, and it's all about how you look in life.
Right.
Am I going to sit here and complain why me? Or am I going to make the best of this situation that I have?
Correct.
Because he's still a blessing from God.
And speaking of God, Kelton, this past couple of weeks, we go to Faith Church over in Florence, and Kelton sings, man, at church. Man, Kelton sings. People around us, they'll be looking around. I mean, smiling. He sings, and so I was tucking him in the bed one night. We were saying our prayers, and I said, Kelton, I said, do you love God? And he said, yes, I do. I love God, and God loves me. And I said, do you want God to come into your heart? And he said, I do. He said, I want God to come into my heart. And so we said the prayer. And so we talked to him and told him that, once you're saved, that you need to be baptized. And he said, well, I want to do that. And so this Sunday he's going to be baptized at Faith Church.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. Ooh, and that's one of those things that's like you think you want your kid to play sports and all this kind of stuff, but to see your sons or your son get baptized and start that journey, it's different. It's different. It's a different type of feeling, man.
It's totally different.
I'm proud for you guys, man.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah. That's, like I said, it's kind of like that gives you that extra peace.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, now my job is even more, putting more, God into you by,
Well, sometimes, and I guess all parents, hopefully if you care as being a parent, sometimes you feel like you're not doing a good job, and then sometimes, then things like that come along, and you're like, well, maybe I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we're doing okay.
Yeah. So what role can the communities play in supporting families navigating a new diagnosis?
Well, so like right now, what we've kind of been talking to, and it was awesome that Dwayne called me and asked me to come do this, because right now what we've been talking about, so like through what we talked about earlier about routines. So like through the summertime, Kelton and his brother Dayton, they're 14 and 13, we work, so they have to stay at home by themselves. And so, and of course, we have cameras and all that, so we can check in on them anytime. They have phones, stuff like that. But so with Kelton, when we're not there to stay on him and do and work, and he's not doing just playing on his iPad, watching TV, whatever. he gets out of his routine. So there's no really that we know of programs for kids with disabilities throughout the summer. So, that's one thing we talked to Dustin Phillips about. My wife was talking with him, trying, to figure out some things maybe that he could do to keep him, keep his mind going and in the right direction, and focusing on schoolwork, and just doing some things. Because we even asked him, Kelton, if you could go to like school through the summertime, would you do it? And he's like, yeah, I would like to do that. So, but when like I said, when he's just at home and he's on that iPad, he gets out of routine. So then when school rolls back around, then it's a little bit, especially like if when he changes schools or changes teachers or whatever, that makes it a little more challenging for a little while to get him back in his cycle.
Yeah.
So that would probably be the biggest thing as far as our area. Now, probably in the bigger cities, there's probably things for them to do.
Yeah.
But in this area, that would probably be the biggest thing for the community. I guess would probably be that
summer help.
Yeah, some kind of school, some kind of something that they could go to and keep them involved, to keep them working toward staying on task.
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea. Somebody could put together a summer camp program. Doing work out just like they have for kids that's not on the spectrum, for them to be able to do different activities, still be able to socialize, learn some things,
right.
Step out the comfort zone, right. And then have people there that are truly trained right. In that area, so they can be super effective and impactful while the kids are there. So yeah, that may be something you definitely want to continue to try to dig in and see what's going on out there, because there may be somebody out there doing it. It may be a church that
I mean, that would, somebody, but the thing about it is that, you run into, like, because you have children with disabilities. So then like insurances and things like that are really high,
Yeah.
So from what we've kind of, found out. So that's, like I said, that's some of the things that probably community wise would be helpful if they could come up with some programs.
Yeah. And we're kind of talking about education and school and things to do during the summer. So how can parents advocate for their autistic child within the education and healthcare systems?
Okay. So healthcare wise, so every year we have to do an IEP.
Okay. And
that's an independent education program, I think is what it's called. So we meet with the teachers and we talk to them about, okay, they'll ask us, okay, what does Kelton need to work on? What do you want to see him improve in this next year? And so here's what happens a lot of times. And I don't really want to blame it on teachers, because I know they do a lot and they put up with a lot and they have a lot on their plate.
Yeah.
But in the same sense, when it comes to like our child and what we've dealt with personally, a lot of times, like, okay, so like one of the big things we've told him is Kelton likes to play on his iPad. So like a lot of kids nowadays, they take their test on the computers. Well, if Kelton sees a computer, he thinks YouTube, he thinks play. Like, I'm getting to play and watch videos. He don't think test.
Right.
So he struggles when they give him tests on electronic devices. So we've requested, will you please allow him to take written tests? Well, the teachers don't want to, they put their test on the computer and it grades it for them. They don't want to take the time to write a test for him, because I guess maybe he's the only child in the class that has to have that. They want to just give him the computer test. Well, then he comes in with a 50 or 60, but then when he takes a written test, he'll score an 80 or a 90.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So as far as like when you're advocating for your child, you've got to make sure, and my wife has done an excellent job. She stays on it. I mean, she stays on it like a hawk.
Yeah.
Watching and making sure that they're honoring and following the IEP that we've talked about.
Gotcha.
And I mean, the other, administrators, different people have met with us and we've said, okay, this is what we need to do. And so sometimes they'll get off of that. So as a parent, you got to make sure that you're staying on that and making sure that they're following through with what they're supposed to be doing. Because, and like I said, I'm not blaming them. I know they got a lot going on. I know it's chaotic, especially in the world we live in today. A lot of different challenges going on there. So, but as far as a parent of a child with autism, you have to make sure that they're doing those things.
Okay.
Because see, the school and the state are tied together. So you can't just go bebopping up in there in the school and, say, whatever, because they don't care. So, but you got to make sure that you stay on top and call them out when they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Because if not, they'll just kind of they'll just push them on. You know what I'm saying? As long as the whole class is making good grades, I ain't worried about that one.
Gotcha.
So,
do they not have like aides in these classes for certain students, or?
So I'm glad you brought that up. So from what I understand now, certain schools will provide aids for children. Certain schools won't. They, for whatever reason, they want the child to be in the class. Now, they may have a teacher that comes around and helps them here's and there's. And like if they have to go to the special class room for whatever, for a designated time period or whatever, then they'll be with that teacher. But not always do they have an aide with them all the time.
Okay.
Some schools do, some schools don't.
Okay.
If you want, you can go. We've heard of other parents that have went and hired lawyers and fought and, to do more. But here's where it gets me. So, like I said, I have an older son that's 22, and I have a son that's 14, and then Kelton's 13. So, to me, I tell my wife, this goes with any kid, I feel like. If you do too much for them, they can't do anything on their own.
Come on.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
Especially
sir.
nowadays in time.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? Like Kelton, he feeds himself. He goes to the bathroom by himself. He puts his clothes on by himself. In the mornings, we lay them out. He puts them on, So, and there's a few things like we're still working on tying shoes, stuff like that. But like, to me, you got to push them, because if you're just always there to do everything for them, they're never going to learn anything.
I'm total agreement with that.
You know what I'm saying? So I've always told her, when I'm dead and gone, when she's dead and gone, who's going to take care of Kelton? He's got to learn to take care of himself to some degree. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, now I understand that. Yeah. If he can't get that, okay, then that's fine. We'll just keep working on that. But there's some things that he can learn, and we're going to push him. And guess what? I discipline him almost just like I do my 14-year-old. When we get up from the dinner table, Kelton better pick up his plate and take it and put it in the sink. You know what I'm saying? Like, he takes his clothes off and changes his clothes. He throws his clothes out. No, you pick those up and you put them in dirty clothes. Like, he has to learn these things. You know what I'm saying? Like, just because he has a disability don't mean I'm going to treat him any different.
Yeah, I like that. You still got to hold him accountable to the level that he can comprehend.
Yes,
I agree with
that. Now, if
he
don't get it, just like he really don't get the danger of parking lots and stuff like that. So then, okay, so I'm going to be a little bit more, cautious there,
right?
Because he really don't get it. But when I tell him something and he purposely don't do what I tell him to do, and he can figure out how to work that, that's what I tell him, bro. You can figure out how to run that iPad. you can do what I need to tell you to do. Guess what? He bathes himself in it. Now he takes about an hour-long shower now. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's in there for a while, but when he comes out, he's clean.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He's in there for a while, but he's clean.
Yeah.
When he comes out, and I'll even holler. I'll go in there and be like, "Hey, Kelton, bro, you might want to hurt. You've been in that shower for a while. It don't matter. He's in there. He's washing. He comes out and he's clean.
Yeah.
And he likes for his mama to fix his hair in the morning.
Gotcha.
He ain't gonna leave that house unless mama fixes his hair to go to school. So it's funny because you don't think that they pay attention to stuff. And like, we'll be talking sometimes, going down the road or something, and Kelton will say, he'll just pop up in the back. He'll be in his iPad. Yeah, that's right. Like this, and it's like, what? He was listening. So they pay attention more than and they register more than what you think they do.
Okay.
Just because they don't give you a reaction don't mean they ain't.
So don't underestimate it.
Yeah.
And be careful what you talk about in front of them.
Acknowledging you don't mean they ain't listening.
Yeah. What about healthcare?
Thankfully, with the good Lord, we have not dealt with a whole lot of healthcare with Kelton.
That's good.
Now, when he was younger, before he got the diagnosis, he had, and I'm going to be a little tough, a little deep with this conversation, but I feel like it needs to be said. He had issues with bowel movements.
Okay.
There was one doctor's office that he first was going to, and when he would go, there would be blood, and I go in there to the doctor, and he says that that's normal. And I said, it might be normal for you, but it's not normal for me.
Right.
My child's not going to do that. You know what I'm saying? I know you're the doctor, but he's my son. And if I don't stand up for him, nobody else is going to. So we moved different doctors.
Mm-hmm.
And so they put him on some different things, to be able to try to use the bathroom in number 2, that's where he struggled with. And so that was a really hard struggle. We ended up having to take him to Huntsville to a gastroenterologist, and he was impacted. And they give him enemas, stuff like that. And we've had to go to the emergency room because he wouldn't go to the bathroom. He just, for whatever reason, he holds it really bad. So we have to remind him, we have to stay on him, Kelton, you need to go to the bathroom. So that kind of thing, that's really been the only healthcare that we've had to, face so far. But like I said, the doctor really didn't, he acted like it wasn't no big deal that he was constipated and having blood down there. And I'm like, no. Like, that's not cool. We're not having that.
Yeah.
I called my wife because she was at work, and I took him, and I called her and I said, we're changing doctors because me and that doctor's about to fight. Because my son ain't going, no, we're not doing that. So we moved him in. Luckily, like I said the other day, but we had to take him in the emergency room. We've had several things we've had to do to stay. And it's been, that's another thing that's been, because used to the medicine would work, the Miralax, we would give it to him, and then it kind of got where it wouldn't work. So Dr. Pepper, we grew him Dr. Pepper to drink because it has prune juice in it to make it that color. So it helps him to go. So that's really been the only issue that we've personally had as far as healthcare. But now some of the stories that we've heard as far as like at school, some of the other kids have not been probably, taken care of like they probably should have because they have those issues sometimes. So, but other than that, that's really the only thing that we've dealt with personally.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to leave with the people? Because we pretty much about to wrap it up, bro.
All right, let's see. So I want to say this here. So Dustin Phillips is the one that we've talked to, and he was actually one of Kelton's teachers at school, and he has the Chadwick Foundation, and it was created to fill gaps in services for individuals with exceptional needs and their families. We focus on respite care, inclusive events, advocacy, education, and community support. And so he basically is looking for people to come out and support him for funding and stuff so that he can provide some of the services that we talked about. Because my wife and him have talked about, like the summer programs and things like that. And because there's nothing in this area for that. So, if you're looking to do anything or sponsor or help out in any way, then that Chadwick Foundation, would be the way to go. Or if you're looking for resources, he has some of the resources and information, and he's helped us in some of our, in our journey.
Awesome.
So Dustin Phillips at the Chadwick Foundation.
So Dustin Phillips with the Chadwick Foundation.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And he's also, he was nominated for Long Lewis Hero of the Month. And then he won that award, and he also ended up winning the Hero of the Year award. Correct. So he is doing some great things here in the Shoals area. Right. So if you got a kid that has special needs or anything of that nature, reach out to him. Partnerships, I know he's looking for that. So, man, I just want to thank you, Mr. Lucas Logan, for coming through and sharing your story, opening up for Autism Awareness Month. It's greatly appreciated, man. I've learned a lot tonight. It's very interesting. Very educational as well. So I hope you guys learned something from it. Like, share, comment, and you guys be blessed. The Elevated Chat Room. We out.